Private Lender Podcast, Episode 56.
The Private Lender Podcast quote of the day comes to us from Charles Lamb, who said, "The human species, according to the best theory I can form of it, is composed of two distinct races, the men who borrow and the men who lend."
This is the Private Lender Podcast, the show that shares practical advice and know-how for new and seasoned lenders, from private mortgages on single-family houses to joint ventures on commercial projects and beyond. Discover details about investment vehicles that you won't find at your local bank or online broker. Listen and learn from private lenders and real estate investors, as well as from professionals and entrepreneurs, as they share the details, strategies, and the insight that allows for successful and prosperous lending. Now, get ready to increase your ROI. Here's your host, Keith Baker.
Listen, if you're looking for a way to learn how to increase wealth by using time-tested methods in an ever-changing world, then you're in the right place. Welcome to the Private Lender Podcast, the only podcast whose mission is to teach people how to become private lenders and to create an economy where people just like you and me can confidently invest and build wealth with old-world pragmatism and without banks or Wall Street. My name is Keith Baker, and I'd like to welcome you to episode number 56. Today, I'll be speaking of a few of the ways I protect my money in a market that has peaked or is already trending downward. And I really want to get straight into that topic. So let's go ahead and thank our sponsor. This episode of the Private Lender Podcast is proudly sponsored by CountyTaxSaleApp.org. With CountyTaxSaleApp.org, you get a very powerful lead generation tool in the palm of your hand, on your laptop, desktop, or any device you choose. Get real-time alerts for between 300 and 600 properties every month that are coming up for the foreclosure auction in Harris County, Texas, the third largest county in the United States. With its intuitive design and interface, the County Tax Sale app lets you search all properties with highly motivated sellers that are coming up for foreclosure auction. Simply search the map and click on a property to learn important details about that property, such as the address, owner's contact info, minimum bid, and a street view photo. You can save properties to your favorites and contact the sellers directly and receive email and text alerts if one of your favorite properties is redeemed or canceled prior to the auction. You can even listen to Sammy Gupta on episode 28 of this podcast as he discusses all the powerful features and benefits of CountyTaxSaleApp.org. For more information, go to the Private Lender Podcast sponsor page, the show notes page for this episode, or to CountyTaxSaleApp.org. That's CountyTaxSaleApp.org. And as always, a big thank you to our sponsors and friends over at CountyTaxSaleApp.org and over at 713RIA.com. If you are able to support them in any way, please do. Go by and say hi to them and tell them Keith sent you. So now, let's get to the nut cutting, as we say in my neck of the woods, or as the decent people like to say, down to brass tacks. So I want to share with you four ways that I use to keep my money protected in a market that that has peaked and is trending down, or are we there yet? Now I know many have asked, what's my opinion on the current market, and as I record this episode in early January of 2019, I will only say that it appears the market has cooled a bit in my area, in my backyard. I'm not sounding any alarms. All markets ebb and flow, tides rise and fall, and sometimes they're insane bubbles and crashes. Does that sound familiar? So my answer is this. Right now, I'm agnostic on the U.S. real estate market, neither hot nor cold. I really don't see massive waves affecting my area at this moment in time. However, as if those trends become fear or doom inducing, well then I will I'll certainly change my tact. And as we say, it's almost, I was thinking the other day, I need to start paying more attention to the national indicators a little bit more. Maybe I'll do another episode on that here in the near future, on kind of what they measure, what they mean. Yeah. Anyway, I'm just talking out loud, thinking out loud. So let's go ahead and get into, I think it's 4 things, and I'll try to drill down a little bit without going down too many rabbit trails. But the first thing I like to do, the market's slowing down, is I like to slow down. And by that, really go through my underwriting criteria, tighten up my borrowing requirements, and really take my time doing my due diligence, because things can change, in a heartbeat. And a lot of people have, let's face it, some people lose money, and I don't want to be one of those. So I may start requiring that the borrower have a little bit more money in a savings account just in case the loan goes longer. Say if it's a 6-month loan, I'd like to start seeing a little bit more as days on market increase. It's going to take longer, so I'd like to see that they're ready for that. The borrower is ready for that. Or if they're landlords, what's the quality of their portfolio? And this may seem counterintuitive to you guys, but I would rather have somebody who has very low income housing in their portfolio, a lot of it, because that always cash flows in good times and bad. And big, nice, big houses, when they sit vacant for a while, and it hurts on your monthly expenses. So without anything to offset it. So that's number one. Number two, in the tightening up of my borrowing requirements, is I scrutinize, and that's the comps. And sometimes I'll start to factor in a downside price contingency. So, for example, 10%. Go into it thinking you're going to lose 10% the day that you close on the value of the home, that is. So go with that in mind. Are you still comfortable making that loan, knowing that in 2 years you'll be back, most likely be back or near the rate, the ARV that you loaned upon? I like to tighten up the radius on the comps map, and I don't like to go more than a quarter or a half mile if possible. I mean, I know this is kind of pie in the sky stuff. You may be in a very rural area, and this does not apply to you. But in a major metroplex such as the Houston area, and in town, out in the suburbs, whatnot, the tighter the radius, the better. Don't cross any major roads or intersections. Just keep it nice and tight, because sections of neighborhoods are different, and some comps may inflate the ARV a bit. So you want to really tighten up that radius, and the tighter the better. And I want to see how the days on market, are they increasing, and are prices decreasing? But where's the trend? So you can kind of factor that into your downside contingency as well. Downside price contingency, I should say. And then I tighten up on the age of the comps as well. The last 30 days is best. 60 is okay. If possible, don't go more than 90 days out. That's my preference. That's my personal preference. You may have something different. Your market may act completely counter to mine. But if it does, you'll start thinking of this in terms of how you would lend in your markets. No more than 90 days. I don't like 180 days at all when the market's going down. I mean, anything at 180 or more days is just as outdated as a rotary phone or my Atari 2600. So the more recent the comp, the better. The other way is LTV. In rising markets, I'll go up to a 70%, generally speaking, on a flip or a cash out refi or anything like that. However, I'm right now at 65% just because I'm skittish. I mean, personally, I'm skittish. So if I have money to lend, it won't be more than 65. And depending on how things go, I'm going to give myself the next 30 days to try to dig down into the national scene to see how things look. But, that may stay in there. But I think, with the Trump effect and everything, I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. So why not go ahead and reduce it down to 65% loan to value, 65% ARV after repaired value, all in. And, we can always take it down from there. Now, if you're underwriting with really, really good investors, sometimes you're only at 50%. So you don't have to lower your LTV. But, those deals don't appear every day. But those are the kind of investors you should go after, because they're building in security into your investment already, just by negotiating the deal. And the final thing that I've done, I wanted to share with you guys today, that when I get uncertain or I'm unsure, I have looked for longer terms with sort of older and more established landlords and sellers, like my partner Landon, for example. I tend to go to those who are very experienced. It adds, it's another layer of safety, so to speak. It's not a guarantee, but when it comes to mitigating risk, that is one of the ways to do it. So I look for a lot. So maybe I'll go in the 3-year term. I'll say, okay, so say Landon wants to sell or finance a home. I get the first lien, but he needs to tie it up for 3 years at well, he owes me, so let's say 10%. But no, he'll argue for 8. But for 3 years, I don't have to work that money. And as long as Landon's wife is making the payments, they've never been late. When it was Landon had the pocketbook, his very first payment to me was late. So they've done really well afterwards. But there's a certain level there that I know, while it's only 8%, I don't have to work that money for 3 years. It's like a 3-year CD. And if anything goes wrong, I can go get a piece of property. So I look at that as not necessarily a bad thing. Yeah, it's the longer play versus the short, quick, fast money. But that makes it no less a valid strategy. It's one that I employ in my portfolio. And, something that you may want to consider as well. So there you have it. The kind of the 4 things I like to use to mitigate risk in a down market. However, I kind of alluded to it earlier. If you're, if you underwrite this thing, if you've got quality investors bringing quality deals and you're bringing you great LTV, then a lot of that is sort of already built in. I mean, do your due diligence, but it's just another factor that there's more room for error, I guess. So should be a little safety, a little feeling of maybe a warm and fuzzy. So. And for that, I'm going to ask you for the price of going to iTunes and leaving a rating and review, or Google Podcast at your SoundCloud or whatever platform. But please help spread the word. And the more ratings and reviews that the podcast gets, the more people like yourself can hear it and can learn, and we can start building that community and economy quicker. So you can connect with me at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, BiggerPockets. And probably the easiest thing to do is just go to theprivatelenderpodcast.com and look for all of those notes or those links. There should be in the show notes and in other places on the website. And I'm going to ask that you go to privatelenderacademy.com and sign up to get on the quote, air quotes, Keith promises to deliver the Private Lender Academy, end of quotes, waiting list and be the first to learn how to gain access once it goes live. Well, I'd like to thank you for listening to me ramble on today. And please keep reaching out to me via email and social. I greatly appreciate the feedback. It helps me keep me going and keep me thinking about things that I can bring up on the air and talk to you guys about, and things that we can communicate. So I wish you guys safe and prosperous private lending, and I'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Private Lender Podcast with your host, Keith Baker. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit privatelenderpodcast.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, please rate and review, and we'll catch you next time.
Baba Booey.